Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Hello and welcome to the Think Factory podcast for Wellness and Women's Roundtable, where we learn how women think big and grow their business. My name is Susan Kleiner. I'm a partner with Outside General Counsel Solutions, and I'm the host of today's episode. I'm happy to have here with me today Heather Brown. Heather is the Executive Director of the Recovery Village Cherry Hill at Cooper. Heather brings many years of experience as a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor to her role leading the Cherry Hill team. She's also an adjunct professor in social work at Monmouth University and has an extensive background in the recovery space. Heather has held positions as executive director at Acadia Healthcare, Harbor Wellness and Recovery Center, and Core Health Services, among others, during her distinguished career. She brings her leadership, enthusiasm, and knowledge to the Recovery Village Cherry Hill at Cooper to help patients enter a healthier and more satisfying life. So welcome, Heather, to our podcast.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's great to have you. So I know that Recovery Village at Cherry Hill is kind of new. Maybe you could tell us some more about it and what it's been like for you since you joined.
Sure. So we are a newer facility under the umbrella of Advanced Recovery Systems, which has multiple facilities throughout the U.S., but we are the one and only in New Jersey. We had the great honor of opening in the middle of COVID. So there wasn't a huge splash. We couldn't do an open house. We sort of opened pretty quietly, but we have been here for the past 3.5 years, just working with adults who are struggling with substance use disorders.
Now, I think that Advanced Recovery Systems, it's a nationwide network, so that helps, right?
Yes, it does.
To be able to plug in to those resources and that background, I mean, along with your, very knowledgeable background. And Advanced Recovery System is physician-led, correct?
Correct. And it's a great thing to be able to work under physicians who really understand that this really is a medical model, that addiction does fall in that world of it is a brain disease. And so we really do look at things from that perspective, which is also great that we have Cooper so involved with the facility as well.
Right. So that if people need, I know that, in general, I mean, obviously you are attending to the spiritual 12-step recovery type, right? I mean, I know that you still employ that model, but it's huge that, you can bring medicine and science to treatment, and that you're backed by this, incredible hospital system. So I suppose you're also able to treat people with maybe other medical circumstances when they come into you.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of being, not only physician-led, but having Cooper involved, and Cooper runs our entire medical team. The great thing about that is we are able to take individuals with a little bit of a higher medical acuity than some other places might be able to handle, because we have those resources here. And if somebody does need something or there's an emergency or they need a doctor's appointment, we're able to rely on Cooper to be able to do that and do that quickly. As we know, a lot of individuals who are coming into treatment also have a lot of other medical issues that they really haven't been addressing because of their substance use. It hasn't been a priority for them. So individuals come in and they either haven't seen a doctor in years, or they have all sorts of medical conditions that have just not been addressed. And so not only will we look at, treating them for their substance use and mental health when they're here, but we'll help them to get appointments to doctors and get their physical well-being addressed as well.
And this is a brand new facility. I mean, I went on your website. The pictures are absolutely gorgeous. So it's state of the art, brand new.
Yes.
Now, I think what's interesting, you said that you couldn't open with a splash because it was COVID, but you have grown exponentially since then. So how many
Yes.
beds do you have?
Yes, we are a 90-bed facility. So we do, and we hit every single level of care within the facility. So that runs right from detox all the way through to outpatient.
Now, I know one of the really interesting things that sets apart the Recovery Village Cherry Hill at Cooper, and I think maybe something that, is done throughout, the system, has to do with this boarding house model, which to me is absolutely fascinating. Having some experience with, boarding houses in my legal practice, and using them to as alternative housing. I would love to hear some more about how this works and how this sets you apart.
Sure. Well, Advanced Recovery Systems has developed this model, and it's done at all of their facilities, where they've incorporated a boarding house right into the facility, which seems very hard for people to understand sometimes. But one of our floors in the building is a dedicated licensed, Class C licensed boarding house. And what this does is, I mean, we all know that longer periods of treatment really do create longer periods of recovery. So, and unfortunately, in our world, insurance really dictates a lot of what we can and can't do in terms of treatment. So the boarding house is a great option for individuals who are coming in for detox and then moving on to a residential program. And let's say, for example, insurance is only going to cover 14 days, right? Well, that's not really a long time. And for somebody coming in to get treatment and saying in 14 days you're good to go home, go back to the environment that you just came from, and we'll just set you up with something outpatient, is pretty scary for a lot of folks. And they need more time and they want more time. So our way around this is to create a boarding house. So individuals, we call it a step down. So they step down through the program, they go to detox, then to residential, and then into what we call what is outpatient according to insurance, but yet they still live here in our boarding house. And so what that means is they're technically at an outpatient level of care, which is either partial hospitalization, partial care is what it's called, or intensive outpatient, which they will go downstairs to receive services, but then they live upstairs on our boarding unit. The great thing about that is not only is it just a nice gradual transition, is that they still get all of the resources here at the facility. So the rooms look exactly the same. They still have access to the dining room. They still have access to all the medical care. So everything within the facility, they still have access to. They're just at an outpatient level of care. And they have a little bit more freedom. So they are able, it's very structured. So there's staff there all the time. But they have the ability to go off-site with a sober support individual. And that's a nice transition too, for example, for a family who maybe a husband and a wife whose marriage has struggled because of their substance use issues. And they want to maybe just go to dinner, be able to go to this, on the outside world, right? After being in inpatient treatment, right? Which everybody, talks about, it's this bubble. So they're able to go out, maybe have dinner, come back to the facility, and they're able to process that. How did it go? Were you at a restaurant? Was there alcohol there? What did that feel like for you? What was your conversation with your husband or wife? What did you talk about when you weren't in therapy? Because we do a lot of family therapy here, but now this is on your own. What did that feel like for you? How did that work out? Were your kids there? And they can come back and process that while they're still going through their treatment. So it's just a nice step down, and it's a nice way for individuals to sort of transition from being inpatient to going back outside, and starting to process some of those stressors that they would occur if they just went straight home.
I mean, that's just so fabulous. And to me, I mean, obviously there are, other facilities in other states who are also dealing with this insurance issue, right? Like, how do we get people the care that they need and the structure that they need while trying to make it affordable and work within the system. And I know, particularly, what comes to mind in particular is Florida, because Florida has sober living, sober houses. But as some of those have come under great scrutiny because I don't think that they have been as adequately staffed. There hasn't been the kind of oversight, and it hasn't worked out well. So this boarding house model that you and the other facilities at Advanced are using is really terrific. Like it's a great alternative. And
Yes.
I mean, congratulations on that. So if there are people listening who are interested, I mean, I'm sure that, you're willing. I mean, I don't know if you have information on this, maybe for people at other facilities or people who are thinking about it. Is there somebody that they could contact or some way that they could learn more about how this boarding house portion of your services work?
Yeah, I mean, they can call us directly here in Jersey at our facility. They can call our admissions hotline, which is always staffed 24/7, and they can explain it. We do have a team that goes out and we'll talk about the boarding house and all of our programs overall. We do have people that go to other facilities for detox and residential, and then might come here afterwards for whatever reason. They might have just chosen to go to another substance abuse treatment center, but when they were there, realized they needed more, and so those facilities will often send that individual to us just for boarding, and that's okay too. We do both. You don't have to just come from our own program. You can enter straight into boarding if you happen to be somewhere else first. So there's a couple different options to be able to enter into that program.
Yeah, it just sounds really great. And I know that, you've had to work hard with the New Jersey. I mean, it's the Division of Consumer Affairs that regulates boarding houses, which is much different than what you're doing in your rehabilitation facility. So
Yeah.
kudos to you and to the folks who figured out those regulations. And hopefully, what you have developed is a model that could be repeated because
Yes.
it just sounds amazing. So, turning our attention to, because I think you've had a really interesting career, and you're at a high level, and you're young, you're a young woman, and I know that when in speaking to you and talking to you about path to leadership, particularly as women, like there were some challenges that you faced climbing the ladder, and I think it could be helpful for our listeners, just to hear your words of wisdom and experience on this, because it's always nice to know that you're not alone. So I'd love to hear some more.
Yeah, I know. I know when we originally chatted, we talked about really the female aspect, and there is still implicit bias in the workplace. There probably always will be. I would love to say that there isn't, and we still see that a lot. A lot of the individuals who are running larger facilities or companies, even in the human services field, are male. When I originally uh, got into the field and wanted to do a more administrative role, which was really what I focused on in graduate school, was administrative social work. That was really more of a passion of mine than doing straight clinical. I enjoyed both, but I really enjoyed the administrative aspect. My fear was more around age. And so when I will never forget applying. I was 27 and applying for my first executive director position. And I thought, I wasn't even thinking male or female. I was thinking they're going to think I'm too young. And so what I had done is I took all the dates off of my resume, and I just acted as if like it just got cut off, in the
Whoops.
printing of it. And because I believed if they had saw my age, they would have just put equated youth with inexperience, and not really focus on what I had done in the past or just the skills that I had in general. And it was quite interesting when I showed up for the interview, because I could tell in some of the board members' faces that they were like, who is this girl? And why is she applying for this job? And really had to focus on my own strengths and to be able to to get that position. I even remember they asked me to redo my headshot because it was a few years old, and they were going to do a press release that they had a new director, and they wanted it to be a little more current, aka probably look a little older, which I found kind of interesting.
That
Yeah,
is interesting, right? And I guess as we
yeah,
older, then it flips and we just try and look younger. I know that maybe you take out your dates because you don't want to seem like you're over a particular age. But
yeah.
I think that these are really important points. I mean, one of the things that I talk about a lot with folks that appear on this podcast is about stigma with addiction, recovery,
Mhm.
mental health. But we don't talk a lot, and also interestingly about implicit bias. And I know that in an article that I was recently reading about, it talks about how important it is to point it out, to talk about it, because it helps us all with our collective understanding to challenge all, the implicit bias that all of us have. So thank you for sharing that. Maybe it will resonate with someone and they'll think about it, in their own career, or maybe when they're interviewing someone, and kind of
Mhm.
challenge their own beliefs.
Mhm.
So you also are an adjunct professor at Monmouth University, and um, you teach a human rights class, global human
Yes.
rights and social work, which is surprising to me because I would think in some ways you would be teaching like these administrative, I mean, what you do, what you're great at, which is this administrative social work. And instead you're teaching global human rights. So what led you to that, and what do you like about being a professor of global human rights and social work?
Well, I love teaching. I always have. I've been very fortunate. They asked me to teach years ago, right when I graduated. They said, when you get all, finish schooling and you worked for a little while, call us. We actually want you to teach introduction to social work because we think that you would be great at getting the younger generation to want to become social workers. So if you taught intro to social work, that would be really great. You could get people excited about the profession. So for years I did that and grant writing, and then I just through the years they've asked me to teach different classes, and I've really landed on global human rights and social justice more because it's just a passion of mine, and I think it's having this incorporated into the curriculum at Monmouth, and it's not just while the class itself sits under the umbrella of the social work department, it is one of the requirements of students. They each have to take something in that global realm. um, so a majority of the students in the class are actually not social work majors. They're majors of anything under the sun, from business to arts to communications to marketing. And so I enjoyed that more than anything because I like talking to them about what's going on in our world. And I just feel like just a powerful way to really shape our next generation of not just leaders, but advocates or just informed citizens. A lot of students are young, right? So we're talking young kids, 18, 19, 20. They're really just starting to form their worldviews. A lot of those worldviews are just coming from what they see on social media. Um, and so it's great to have that conversation, raise that awareness about what's going on across our globe, inspiring them to think about the roles that they can play in addressing some of these global challenges, no matter what field you're in. It doesn't have to be a human service field, it could be any field. And what does that look like for you? Um, do you understand power systems, oppression, privilege? Um, a lot of them don't, haven't dealt with those things in their lives yet. So, you know, we're really able to have them start thinking about these things intentionally, thoughtfully, compassionately. Um, and I just, it's just sort of an area I love and fell into and keep teaching.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and I apologize, I misspoke because I said it was global human rights and social work. It's global
Social
human rights and social justice, which
justice,
is
yes.
in the sociology department. And I imagine that you kind of staying on the cusp, right? Like staying in touch with that and with youth, like it enhances your performance as, executive director at the Recovery Village Cherry Hill. Would you say that that's true too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you know, it's still issues that I deal with here, in terms of everything from the stigma that's attached to individuals. Uh, when we look at policy in terms of what is going on with insurance and why won't they cover more, what's going on with our state system, and how can we make sure that we're able to provide substance abuse and mental health services to anyone and everyone, not just individuals that have private insurance or can afford treatment. And what does that look like? People who are on things like medication assisted treatment, and the stigma that's placed on them. So even within the work that I do here, uh, there's these issues still come up. These human rights issues still come up. Um, you know, policy issues still come up. So it, again, as I explained to the students, it doesn't matter what field you're in. These things are always going to be there. And how do you navigate that? And how do you use your influence and to make change?
Wow, thank you. That's just inspiring. You must be a great professor. The students must love talking to you, and
Oh, thank you.
it sounds really interesting. So, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, to maybe to talk about the services that the Recovery Village Cherry Hill offers, or the boarding house, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Probably the website, really, because it has all of our information on it, our phone number, our email, um, different ways that you can learn about the program. Individuals can always just call the facility directly and ask for me. I mean, I'm certainly happy to speak to anybody about our services. I love talking about our services. So, I think we have a great program. I think we have a great team here, and and pretty good outcomes.
Oh,
Pretty good
that's
outcomes.
terrific.
Yeah.
So one thing I
Yeah.
like to ask, a lot of guests is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh my goodness, my younger self. Well, oh, that's a tough one. I mean, that's tough because there isn't a lot I would change. I think I've made a ton of mistakes, but I think every mistake has helped me to grow and learn. And goodness knows I made a lot. Um, so maybe tell myself to go down this path earlier. I mean, when I was originally in school, I first went to American University, because I wanted to be a congressman, a congresswoman, because I thought that was the better way to make change. Um, and when I was there and doing an internship, something just shifted in me that said I want to be more boots on the ground. And while I enjoy policy, I don't think this is the direction to go. I lived in West Long Branch, which is where Monmouth is, and so I was home at break, and I looked at my parents. I said, "I'm not going back to DC. I think I want to go to Monmouth. They have a great social work program, and that's the direction that I want to go." And I think from there, it just kind of everything sort of took over. And I've just been very fortunate to have some great mentors. My first job was with the YMCA, Monmouth County. And most people don't realize they have a huge social service program. They think of a YMCA as a gym. They don't realize there's this whole other, side. And I was just very fortunate to have a great mentor there, George Hunt, who really taught me so much. And so yeah, I mean, I would just tell myself, keep going, and every mistake you'll learn from, and that's it.
Well, I think that that's a great message too, though. Like, it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
I know
Oh, yeah.
I know that that's a great message too, especially to young people.
Yeah.
Where they think, I want to do this, and then you say, well, actually, I don't. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you are, a great source of inspiration in that regard. So one thing that we ask all of the folks that appear on the Think Factory is, what keeps you up at night?
Oh, goodness. That's right. You did say you were going to ask me that, didn't
I
you?
did say I prepared you.
Well, you know what? Honestly, right now, well, everything keeps me up at night because with a 24/7 facility, there's also a lot of phone calls at night. But no, I think what keeps me up at night now is, last night, for example, we had a patient that left yesterday, completed, his treatment here. He was here for for over 45 days. And I just want to make sure that everybody that leaves is successful. And so I think about everybody when they walk out the door, did we give them all the tools like we possibly could have? Did we set them up with great aftercare? I know that relapse is just a part of the addiction and recovery process. But we always hope that doesn't happen, which is why we spend so much time setting individuals up with aftercare and making sure that every aspect of what we possibly can control for them, where you're living, are you getting proper medical care? Did we set you up with doctor's appointments? Did we set you up with a good, if you're interested in AA or NA, did we make sure we set you up with a home group? And so I worry about everyone's success when they walk out the door.
Yeah. And you also make it a point, like you're executive director, but you make it a point to know the folks that are staying with you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have a connection. Well, I
Call
hear
it a
that.
village for a reason. It's a recovery village for a reason. We're all here.
And it takes a village, right? Well, thank you, Heather, for being here today. And I'm Susan Kleiner. On behalf of our entire team at OGC Solutions and the Think Factory, we want to thank you for appearing, and thank you to our listeners for listening to today's episode. Be sure to check out our other Think Factory podcasts, where my colleagues and I talk to other business leaders about industry trends and issues, about how people think big and grow their business. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.